On this episode of Blending Bourbon, join Dixon and I as we talk with Danny Bardstown, Dan Callaway from Bardstown Bourbon Company.
Blending Bourbon is the podcast that takes you beyond the barrel and behind the scenes of the whiskey industry with master blenders Dixon Dedman and David Mark Young.
Welcome back. Another episode of Blending Bourbon. I'm Dixon Dedman, 2XO Whiskey, joined by my counterpart, the former Vanilla Ice background dancer turned owner and master blender of Golden Sheaf, Mr. David Mark Young. And Myerton is here. We've got him locked in a closet. We have a guest, but before we get to the guest, I want to publicly express my condolences, David. I'm really sorry to hear of your recent loss, and I've been thinking about you, and I hope you know that we all support you and have been behind you. I know that the loss of your father is tragic, and I'm sorry. So I want you to know that up front.
You're talking about me?
Yeah. Your ex-girlfriend told me that you were the product of a one-night stand with your mother and Pee Wee Herman, and I know is that not true?
I knew you were building up to something.
I'm really. Is that not the case?
I'm sweating. I don't know where the hell you were going with this.
I'm so sorry. That's what I was told. I
just started texting my dad, like, what the hell? No, I'm not married.
So, I guess it just made so much sense.
Reuben was not my father, nor was Darth Vader.
Dang.
But it was a terrible, terrible loss. Good Lord.
Now I'm shook.
I should know better than to ever believe anything that you say.
I can't believe I wires crossed somewhere. It just made so much sense. When you kind of wear that bow tie and all that stuff. Weird. So
it's usually
weird.
An ascot, but no. Yeah. Weird. Sorry for the confusion. I can see how you might mix that up. Oh my gosh. Well, you had me going. Dixon, golfer with the stars and all the pro athletes. I saw you out there knocking it out of the Tetons, the Grand Tetons last week.
Oh, I knocked it out of the Tetons. That's for sure. I hit a couple balls that may have gone as high and far off the course onto the Tetons as possible. Seriously, I was trying to be nice. I really thought that you were down, and I'm glad to know that's not the case.
I was until that. Thanks for lifting my spirits. I'm still a little depressed.
This is special. This is really special.
We do have a special guest. I don't know if you see what I'm holding here. Just kind of segue into. It's kind of difficult to see. Better yet, I'll show you. With water in a particular glass.
Yeah, water guy.
Drinking
Mr.
one of my favorite.
is joining us. Oh,
one of my favorite expressions. Is that backwards? Is it going to be? Myerton can fix that, right?
No, it's not backwards. Dumbass.
No, it's backwards to me. So yeah, we have a very special guest. Would you like to do the honors? And
please go for it.
No, you do it.
I can't introduce anybody the right way. I have to tease them, and I'm not doing that. I'm going to tease him later, but I'm not going to tease him now.
Yeah. Well, that's proper introduction. I don't even know where to start. I mean, this guy is a true celebrity. He's an icon in our world, and he's out spreading the great gospel around the world. So we're very fortunate enough to have the honorable Dan Callaway, Danny Bardstown, with us. Thanks for joining us, Danny.
It's awesome to be here. I've been following you guys, fan of what you're doing, and if this is the way I get to see Dixon, then I'm happy to do it.
I love it. We just found out that Dan Callaway is one of the 8 people that listen to this podcast. It's exciting. It's really cool.
Our numbers ebb and flow. We were 12 last week, and I think we were up
Got
to
up
20.
to 14 at one point.
14.
Yeah.
That was
I think I
the
dropped
week
too
Dixon.
many F-bombs and we lost a few.
I wholeheartely expect that our numbers will increase with Danny on this time, though.
Do what I can.
Appreciate
but it is
that.
great to be here. I'm looking forward to talk with you guys.
Same. So you're in Bardstown. We caught you.
I'm in my office right now. So if you hear some glasses clinking and people running around, that's we're in the belly of the beast right now.
Nice.
That's
Yeah.
Nick. That's just Nick. That's just Nick being Nick.
No, it's great. That's really the coolest part about this job. To me, is just being in Bardstown, and anyone that's been here, it's kind of Grand Central Station here. You can go down to the restaurant, the distillery, and you never know who you're going to run into. So I try to be here as much as I can. Just, I don't know, the energy here is unparalleled. So it's a very cool place to come to work.
I agree. Yeah, I was just there, 2 weeks ago, and and surprisingly, pop in for lunch, and you never know who you're going to see. It could be. I love the camaraderie in the community.
Yeah.
So you see a lot of folks from other distilleries in the local area.
Yeah, and that was so important. When it was founded too, they could have built it in Miami or South Carolina, but intentional decision to come to Kentucky, and then specifically Bardstown, really, bourbon capital of the world, and be a modern take on all the tradition that's going on here. It's something special.
Right.
All right. Well, listen, Danny Bardstown.
Yeah.
You even have Danny Bardstown on there. I was hoping you'd have like Horny Frenchman on there or something like that. You don't know this, David, but Dan is also an accomplished in concert French horn player. He is an incredible musician. In addition to all the things that he does. I was walking into a restaurant in Louisville one night. Cool restaurant down on Frankfurt Avenue, Porcini's, and I remember, Dan and his family were living above the librry, right?
Yep. Well, the Louisville Academy of Music.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Life runs that. We were living behind it. Yeah.
And I knew that he lived there. And I'm like walking in this restaurant, and we park, and there's this guy hanging out the window, like just getting. You don't say like wailing away on a French horn, but he was like French horning.
Yeah.
He was really French horning.
Yeah.
And I looked and I was like, well, that's Dan Callaway. I was like, turn that racket off. And he just looked at me. He was like, Dixon. I don't know what he started playing, but he's toured the world playing the French horn.
Yeah.
The world.
I used to, that's what I did the majority of my life, playing music, studying music, and then played in the orchestra down in New Orleans, all over. That's how I met my wife, was over in China doing movie music. And there's still some pretty B-level movies that I did the soundtrack for. And my claim to fame is the Will Ferrell, Zach Galifianakis movie, The Campaign, opens with Taking Care of Business. And the LA musician didn't feel like recording that one. So that was my big break. I layered all it's a high school marching band playing Taking Care of Business. That's all me.
And you played all the instruments?
Yep, stacked. They didn't tell me it was a comedy movie. I thought, I could barely sleep thinking I was going to, really make it in the industry and play something moving. But I showed up. It wasn't the case.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Yeah, no, moved up to Kentucky when I got married, and had always been into wine and cocktails. Got my SOM certifications and started running a restaurant in Louisville, Decca, and really met some incredible. The one thing I've had in my life is incredible mentors and people that are willing to teach me the right way to do things. And in Louisville, just learned a lot from Chef Annie Petrie at Decca and the whiskey community, Joe Heron at Copper and Kings, and that's how I got introduced to the people starting Bardstown and Pete Lofton and eventually Mark Irwin, and just found a home here.
So I want to go with this, if I may, unless David, you tell me not to.
Please do.
But I don't ever listen to anything you say anyway. Right. So we're just, I mean this from. I'm only going to say this once. It's being recorded, so you can listen to it more than once. But Dan, I'm only going to tell you this once.
Okay.
And you know me, I'm a peon. Like but there are people, and this, it's a funny business. Like Dave and I talk about this a lot, and this community is really tight, and everybody's kind of, it's definitely a rising tide raises all boats situation, and for all intents and purposes, I love this world and the people and all of that, and the interactions and the opportunity to spend time and whatever. But man, I'm going to tell you this. I don't, and this means nothing coming from me, but I don't know somebody I would say I'm more proud of, than you are, than your development, watching the trajectory that you're on, what you are accomplishing. When I met you, I think we were very kindred spirits with our hospitality background and spending the time in the restaurant game, and we knew that world. I mean, I would come. You guys weren't. I mean, it was a shell of what it is now. It was a construction site. We talked more wine at that time. I would come and bring bourbon, and you were sending me home with bottles of wine. We were. You were doing all the barrel aged cocktail stuff in the cage, and the cage moved like 6 times. We're dodging forklifts to get there to look at that stuff. But, first of all, your passion and your positivity are just infectious. I mean, they're absolutely infectious. But secondly, you're the development of your craft, going from I'm kind of running this upstart hospitality program to, blending and creating and innovating. And I not that you give a flip about that coming from me, but man, I just think, there's nobody I think of that is doing more, that is more engaged, that I'm prouder to know and prouder to have watched. I mean, the way the path you're on and what you've accomplished is really, really, really awesome, and I'm so happy for you.
Thank you. And Dixon, that means more coming from you than anyone in the world. And I hope you know that sincerely. I think we're the only 2 people doing what we're doing that worked in dish pits. So.
I was still working at a dish pit about 18 months ago, actually.
No, it's exciting. And what I would say, and this is not false humility at all, in many ways, I've got the easiest job in the business because of the team. If you come to Bardstown and you hang out with Justin Willett, Nick Smith, Steve Nally, I mean, talk about you're walking into a moving train, right? That's just, if you surround yourself with excellence, I mean, you've got the commander of Delta Force, right? Running your operation. You're surrounded by this talent. It's just been a really natural development. So I've been very fortunate.
I say this and I'll be very careful. That team and the Bardstown Bourbon Company team, has opened doors for me. Bardstown Bourbon Company has opened doors for me since, I don't know, 2015, 2016 is kind of when, and helped me and been an incredible resource to me. And no organization, is always, there's always things that can be better, can improve upon. But it's always been, what I would consider a well-oiled machine. And then with the addition of Mark, and Mark is somebody that there is nothing I wouldn't do for Mark Irwin. And the cool thing about Mark Irwin is that I'm not sure that there's anything I could ask Mark Irwin to do that he wouldn't do for me. He's just that kind of guy. And if they say that leadership starts from the top, to have that guy, I'd follow that guy into anywhere. It's
yeah. No, you're spot on. You're spot on. So and mentioned earlier, but when you come here and you meet, I can hear on the video monitor Susie Garvin, who we all know, kind of a legend in the industry for negotiating distillery sales. She's working, and the positivity she brings, and you meet with the finance department and what they bring, and just the energy. I think that's what really makes this a true community. We want to see these brands grow because we're all growing together. And then you put that and funnel our best practices into our core products with Mark at the helm. I truly think we're at the beginning of the runway of what we're going to be able to do here. And it's incredible.
So we were talking last week or 2 weeks ago or something like that. And just kind of talking about, everybody has that story of how they got kind of where they are, kind of how, and oftentimes, it's not because you went and posted something on Indeed or whatever. It's a connection. It's a introduction or whatever. And David has a great story, which I think kind of led to, saying, hey, let's talk to Dan about this. But David has a great story that he was sharing. Did you share it on the podcast, or was it when you were?
No, it was just you and I talking about
afterwards?
It.
Okay.
Yeah, I was just rambling afterwards. Yeah. So you mentioned Pete, and I was out there the end of July. We were bottling, and we got to talking. Who was it? There were a couple folks that were talking about, how did you end up here? How did you connect with Bardstown? And I went back to Pete when I had met Pete back in 2015. I think he had reached out, and then he connected me to Dave. At the time, I wasn't in the business. It was more of a marketing conversation, and the irony of it was we're having this conversation right in the bottling house, and I look down. There's a picture of Peter on the table between two lounge chairs out in the reception area, and it took me back to, wow, this all, So it was a bit of a surreal moment for me to be there. We had earlier this year executed a contract, and then, we're actually, bottling our product there, and which is next level for us. It's a great honor to be there.
Well, and the coolest thing about your brand, you've had the best feature in the entire distillery for a year, because when you visited, you left 3 Golden Chief bottles right front and center in the vintage library. So there's
Right.
over 400 whiskeys back to, Dixon, the McBrayer, 1892. And they were set in such a prominent location that I think the hospitality team assumed, of course, they need to be featured, right? So no one moved them for about a year. I don't know how they eventually left, but it almost looked like you were sponsoring the room.
I remember that afternoon, David starts pulling bottles out of this like gun case. Remember that? He had it made specifically for the original Golden Sheaf bottle, and we put some up there, and
yeah, and it's just been it's been an interesting ride, but to be there at Bardstown and to kind of start that, and then of course Peter passed away a few years later, which was interesting for me because we were in conversation. We had met once in Bardstown. We had an ongoing text conversation. We had talked over the phone a number of times, and then it just stopped. And I just assumed that he was busy, and a week or so went by, and then I'd heard that he had passed away, and that's when, just by chance, I had discovered this brand or stumbled upon it and started down the path of reviving it, which led to where we're at now. And
That's awesome.
And so yeah, it was pretty surreal for me, to reflect on that, and then to see Peter's face right there. He was like, he was kind of looking right up. And
good news is we're building a mural now. It's been a little picture for a while. It's been in the work. We've had such a hard time getting the right photo and the look. And
I'm surprised you just can't paint it. I mean, you can do everything else. Why can't you just paint a mural? Like,
I won't go into details at all, but we saw some of the mock-ups, the renderings for what it would have been, and we didn't line up on the right design.
Well, I think what one question I have, which is obviously going to be a long-winded question because that's kind of how I operate, but I met David Mandel and went to Bardstown Bourbon Company when it was a metal frame with a roof on it and some stairs like that. Mm-hmm. That was it. And I mean, we went up to the very top of the roof, stood on the roof and saw how the rickhouse pads had been, the earth had been moved, and I mean there was nothing. It was just very early, and that conversation led me to a guy who helped me acquire some more inventory, who then was like, hey, I know some people and they may be interested in talking to you, which ended up leading me to Stoli, which led me to, I mean, it was kind of, I almost think like that, I can trace kind of where I am now back to Bardstown Bourbon Company.
It's amazing.
And David, in a very similar, it's not similar way, but also, and I wonder, like, do you sometimes feel like you're double dipping a little bit in the sense that you've got like this great and amazing thing going for your brands, for the Bardstown Bourbon Company brand, for what you're doing, as well as being able to offer and support and help. And I'm sure, we're two stories, and you've probably got 50 more just like them where, and that's gotta be a really cool feeling that you're doing your thing, and you're doing it really freaking well, as well as, helping other people kind of achieve their dreams.
Enabling.
You're exactly right. First, for our capacity, in my lifetime, between Bardstown and Green River, we'll never fill 100%. I mean, with our expansion, we'll go up over 10 million proof gallons. And that's purposeful because this collaborative spirit was really Pete's vision from the beginning, and it's who we are. So we're always going to lay down for others. Our ideal is to have partners that are grain to glass, right? That we start. You can procure your exact recipe, your yeast. We can build a recipe with you, and that extends. Some partners, I can work on the actual liquid with them. Some they know exactly what they want. All the way through our bottling facility. And you're right, you nailed it. It makes me so happy to see a project that felt like we started from the beginning on together and we were in it together, and see that come off the line and then go to the shelves and help build these brands. And the last thing we want to have happen is a brand have success, to grow, and then us to say, okay, you're too big for us, you got to go down the street. So we're expanding our distillation capacity, our bottling capacity, so that we're never in that situation where we have to part ways because someone that we worked with was so successful. So yeah, it's and then with our core stuff, and I mean, we didn't really touch on Green River, but that acquisition, my office, you can't see this side, is just full of different Green River liquid, the bourbon, the wheated, and then we'll come out with the rye in a few months here. And I'm so excited. Both brands are authentic grain to glass, right? And they do it all. And
then how's and if we can't talk about it, we don't have to talk about it. But like how's the hospitality project at
Oh
Green
yeah,
River?
let's talk about it. Yeah, absolutely. Really cool. And I'm surprised no one's done it into Bardstown yet from Louisville or Lexington, which I think that'll be happening. But we saw it as such an opportunity to get our name out there and build our brand. A lot of brands, early days, the hospitality has been an obligation traditionally. And we have always looked at it, and I feel like it's what put us on the forefront of hospitality operations as a way to grow the brand instead of checking a box. So you'll see it in our tours and our restaurant, and we wanted to build something special in Louisville. So it's going right in 730 730 Main Street, right by diagonal from Michter's, next to Louisville Slugger, same block as 21C. That area to me is just really growing.
Oh my gosh.
In a cool way.
I've got all these people all the time. They're like, what should we do? And I was like, well, you need to park your car in downtown Louisville one day, and you can go up and down the street between Angel's Envy, Michter's, Old Forester, Evan Williams, Peerless. Now you guys, you don't have to move. And
you've got a ton coming. Our buddies at Pursuit Spirits are going right on the same block. Buzzard's Roost, another partner brand. Heaven's Door with that space is coming on. So, it's amazing from traveling. A lot of people have never heard of the town Bardstown. It means nothing. You're in Bardstown Bourbon. Okay, what's Bardstown? Okay, it's the bourbon capital. So there's still so much awareness to build around this town and specifically our company. And so going into Louisville, it's never going to replace what we do here. No. But it'll just build that awareness and then get them to come see the operation.
But are you still also doing a hospitality type thing at Green River?
Yeah, so that's launched. Green River, right in Owensboro, Bluegrass Capital, is open for tours. All kinds of experiences, tastings. We've launched the bourbon, the wheated. We are soon to launch the rye. Single barrel program is kicking off. If you want to see history, and I mean real, genuine, authentic history, some of the rooms, like someone hit a light and it's been closed for 50 years. It is amazing. People forget what Owensboro was. If you talk to someone like Michael Veach, they can educate you. But
I tell you, I went down there 2017. And they're like, Dixon, you got to go taste these barrels. There's some barrels down there. We need your opinion. We're thinking about picking them up. I went down there, plugged it into my GPS, pull up at the guard shack, and I was like, I'm not. This looks more like a prison.
We're
And,
making some changes to the entrance.
no, for sure. But I mean, I'm just saying, like, it's, and I think that's what's interesting too, and especially what y'all are doing, and you could touch on this because that was big at Bardstown Bourbon Company, right? I mean, that whole space that's a restaurant now was originally just going to be like an event center. I mean, it was, you couldn't have a restaurant and bar. And so it was going to be, y'all are going to rent it out for weddings and whatever. And that legislation changed and y'all changed the game. I mean, absolutely changed the game for what people expect. When you visit a distillery, you go there first and everybody else is like, yeah, well, they don't have what BBC has. Yeah. But they're just production facilities. They're just factories. They just make booze. And all of a sudden, now we're so, we're like, spoiled brats. Like, what do you mean? I can't get a steak and a cocktail? Like, I'm not,
Well, that's the thing now. They're all destinations. They're, like
100%.
back in we had Sherry Moore, who was with Jack Daniels for 30 some years, and Sherry started with Jack Daniels back in the 70s, and she talked about how tourism wasn't much of a consideration back then, and she was part of the evolution of that. Nowadays that's what everybody's it's about tourism. It's not just about producing but entertaining. I
tell people if even if it's just been 2 years since you've been to Bardstown, I mean, it's changed dramatically what the distilleries are doing, the restaurants, just the feel of it, the welcoming feel is just on an upswing. And the cool thing about Green River is we have all this history built in. I mean, at one point in time, it started 1885. It was the most advertised bourbon in the world. I mean, this is a major brand that has survived. And some of the best bourbon, those early Van Winkles from the 90s, some of the best bourbon ever made came from those stills.
Wow.
And it's incredible to see it brought back to life and really respect that original Green River branding. It's cool. And big things are coming from there soon.
Oh yeah. Well, they already are, but I can imagine. So you mentioned, as you travel, you often come across people that aren't.
He always mentions that he travels the world.
He does. He's always somewhere.
He's not,
where in the world is Danny Bardstown?
No, I'm like, I'm in Wisconsin. Danny's like, oh yeah, well, I'm in the south of France.
Yeah,
never said that.
But so I know there's like the Bourbon Capital Guild and even folks from the forgive me, but the Bureau of Tourism in Bardstown.
Yeah, Bardstown Tourism. Yeah,
I feel like there's this movement to. It's not just sit and wait, build it and they'll come, but there's kind of sort of this active movement to proactively get out. And is that part of is Bardstown Bourbon Company collaborating with this United Front? You out on the front lines, as you're, finding collaborators, but are you?
Absolutely. Yeah. So, I mean, we have a mobile unit that says, the words Bardstown Giant going around the country. Right. I mean, how about that for promotion? But a surreal moment. So Samantha Brady, Hannah Medley at Bardstown Tourism with representatives from Heaven Hill, Jim Beam, Preservation, Log Still, Lux Row, and us, all took Bardstown and the distilleries to New York City.
Saw that.
For an event with, the major journalists. We had, Forbes, GQ, all kinds of just crazy magazines coming to hear about Bardstown. And this idea of co-branded packaging that we built with the Bardstown collection, annual release that just celebrates the community. The proceeds go back to Bardstown. We're building out next year's release, but I don't think you will see that anywhere in the world where you have these competitors coming together to celebrate the sense of place and where they're from being Bardstown. It's incredible. Yeah.
It really is. Yeah. Yeah. And
BardstownCollection.com if you want to check it out.
I think that is.
I just happen to have.
Oh, look out. There you go.
This is last year's.
Yeah.
And then.
Cool.
Oh, yeah. You had the ticket for that.
And then, And then this year's. over
Look,
here
that
as
is
well.
awesome.
Big fan, Dan. Big fan.
Cheers. Yeah, just honestly, it's the money. It's donated. It's purely to build up this community and celebrate what we have here.
And I think that, it obviously it was always like that in Bardstown. It was like that for me when we were maybe going to be in Bardstown, which is probably not something we can talk about. But industry wide, it's still very much a rising, as I said, the rising tide raises all boats thing. And I think that's what's kind of fun about this world, right? Is like you get in a pinch and it's like,
Yeah.
it's not like, well, there's an opportunity for us to steal business or no, it's like, how can I help you out? Like, how can we get you through this or what can we do together to that will, it was when we started doing stuff, and I was so nervous. Like I was so nervous when I would go to these events and share a stage or be part of a tasting that included other brands, because I thought that that I would, they'd be like, who I don't know, get out of here, get out of the way, get out, whatever, and it's so cool. It's so cool even now to walk into Bardstown Bourbon Company for me, which was kind of my home away from home for a long time, and to feel welcomed and I mean it's a cool
It's
world
real,
to be in.
It's real. I mean, when both of you guys come in, we're excited to see you and hear what you're up to. And you guys normally bring a bottle of what you're working on, which is always appreciated. And it's fun right now. It's a great community that we're building.
What is and I'm not saying like what is next for you, Dan Callaway, in terms of like what is next that Bardstown Bourbon Company is releasing? Like where
so many cool things.
Like where are you going?
Constantly.
Like what are you doing?
Well, it's just in such a sweet spot now where even though our production is massive and we have great funding through our ownership, Pritzker Private Capital, we are still this tiny team and we are still allowed to make experiments. So if we say, hey, we want to do this, whatever, finish, think any collaborative partner, I don't want to give too much away of things that aren't confirmed, but we get the green light and it's like, try it, see what you can do. So back here, these are all some of these are not going to be products. Some of them will. But in the immediate future, got a great project with Blackberry Farm, which is just amazing location, brewery. Amar Nonino, just really cool. Make the greatest paper plane of all time. Goose Island coming up in the fall. En route Indian whiskey, Jura Scottish whiskey. Just some really... And then on top of that, my favorite thing we do is our grain to glass 100% estate distilled products, which, when we started, we had one still, 8 fermenters. So the product that is on the shelves right now is difficult to find because it was such a small volume. When we get through 24, going into 25, that's when we can finally launch our core estate products in a big way. And our oldest liquid's turning 7 years old this year. And we have some different varieties of mash bills that we're doing some creative things with to come out. And then I'll continue. I mean, one of my main focuses is Discovery Series, which is, that premium blend. What can we lean into? What can we do that's unique? This one coming out in a month or so will be the first time we've ever incorporated BBC liquid into a Discovery blend. So we'll have some 6-year BBC. It had a unique... I'm rambling now, but it went initially into French oak.
That's all I do.
Nothing else. And then combining that in a blend. And then I just always looking for new collaborative partnerships, tasting, and seeing, working with the distillation team, what creative things we can do there, working with barreling. We've got this glass rickhouse out front. I'm hoping we can really lean into that in a cool way. And there's just a freedom here to explore flavor. So
David may have more questions, but I have one more question for you.
Yeah, hit me.
Because we've talked about this a lot. The restaurant business, the hospitality business is hard. It's not easy. Yes. It's a lot of work. But then there are those nights, where like you Saturday night and you get slammed, but everything goes right. Mm-hmm. And there are a few tables are there for an anniversary or a birthday or whatever, and you kind of go above and beyond. You do something special. You make, those nights like in that business where you just like you leave and you're exhausted or you're looking for something to drink or whatever, but you just know that, what you made in paycheck does not even compare to what you made in like the feel good, like the warm fuzzies. Like, we just did, and you get the team and you say, man, you guys crushed it tonight. Mm-hmm. Like it was just, and like, that's a like a high and a feeling that I was always like, you always want that feeling. And there are those occasions where you talk to somebody or it's an event or a group or a special, you're sharing something with people and in the bourbon side of things. And like, I get that same kind of high, like I get that same kind of feeling, like, that you've, like people have been moved by what you've put together, what you've shared with them, what you've done. And I was, we were having this conversation the other day. I can't remember who I was talking to, but they're like, which one of those? And I was like, I think they're the same. I think it's the same. I think it's the same. And I don't, I don't ever do this because I'm trying to get a score or a rating or whatever. I think it's about creating that, that feeling for me that, that we're sharing something with somebody and they're like, this is really special. It's similar to like that this evening was really special. This dinner service was really special. What your team put together was really special. Yeah. Do you ever think about that? I mean, you and I have talked restaurant all the time.
All the time. I think that's really what it's all about. And I just had this conversation where you can't really judge yourself on the outside, but if you have this team, and a restaurant's a great example, or an orchestra, or especially, I had the product development meeting. If you're in it together and you ride out the ups and downs and pull it off, and to see our 6-year product come off the bottling line, that was one of those feelings, right? And just for me, I get it with a team. That's how I find that joy. And it doesn't mean that the team had to work together on every process, but you put finance, compliance, procurement, operations, marketing, and we did it together, and we created something. And it's not what you made on it, it's not the score. You made something together. I think that is the kind of the indelible mark. And that's one of the best things about the industry. Yeah.
Yeah, and I can, just to second what or echo, some of Dixon's sentiments about you, but also the company, the culture. It is unbelievable. I mean, literally I've never experienced a company. My business partner Sean and I were just talking about this, where the culture resonates throughout the entire company. At every level, every role. Everybody's happy to be there. Everybody's happy to serve. Everybody's interested in enabling and supporting their clientele, and as a client, I couldn't be happier, and I'm not just saying that because you graced us with your presence, but definitely appreciate you being here. But man, I have nothing but I'm waiting for the comment card. Like where do I give you guys all 20s out of 10 on the questionnaire? But truly, coming from an innovative industry, I spent 20 plus years in cybersecurity, big corporate America, and I've never. This industry is a lot different, but it's innovation, that we pursued constantly, right? The bleeding edge technology and being the fastest and the best in that space, and this being such a traditional market, I assume there was disruption and even pushback initially with a lot of the vision, but it's become clear that Bardstown Bourbon Company has been accepted in the industry and in this universe, and now leading the way with.
I think so. And now our battle is to maintain that culture. Culture is, you got to work on it every day. You can break it in 1 minute if you want to.
Yeah, absolutely.
Break that trust, and
not with your team, not with the team that you guys have. It's not. I'm not worried about that.
Right.
Well, and I would tell anyone, listen, best time to come hang out, and I hope you two are coming down too, is Bourbon Festival. Come see us. September, October is just such a beautiful time to see the state, and we'll be hanging out. We've got some big events on site and at KBF. We're actually the sponsor, the main distillery sponsor.
That's right. Yeah.
KBF. It's Randy's done an awesome job building that, and we're just. Yeah, I mention it because it's so close to now. And same weekend as Bourbon and Beyond, which will also have some great events. And there's a special time in bourbon coming up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, Danny, thank you very much for taking time out of your busy day and your busy travel schedule. It's an honor to have you here.
Thank you. I didn't get made fun of by Dixon. I was expecting some jabs coming in. It was all compliments.
We're still recording. There's hope.
I mean it. You guys pop up on my Instagram all the time, and I love it. So keep it up.
Same. That's a two-way street. Well, appreciate you very much. Thank you for joining us again. Dan Callaway from Bardstown Bourbon Company. We'll see you next time. Cheers. Don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe. Till next time. Cheers.